everybody. Happy Friday, and thank you for watching the PHNX Coyotes podcast, brought to you by the one and only DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah Merrill here with Craig Morgan and Steve Peters in studio. But we are joined today by a very special guest that we were really excited to talk to. It's former Arizona Coyotes defenseman Keith Yandle. Keith, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the PHNX Coyotes podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. What an intro. How long was that music?
I know. Buddy, buckle in. That's why we start drinking early here.
You get paid by the minute?
Exactly.
Speaking of that, Keith, now you're entering a new stage of your life. And in your old life, everything was regimented. When you had to be at the rink, when you had your meals, when you had to get to the bus, to the plane. What's your time like right now with no schedule and no commitments?
Well, I got the warden telling me where to be and where not to be, what time to be there. So yeah, no, it's actually, it's the first time in a long time that I can ever remember where I've had some freedom in my life to kind of do what I want to do and when I want to do it. But it's also kind of one of those things where you're like, oh man, I feel like I should be somewhere right now. But yeah, it's been a nice change of pace, not having to answer to anyone besides my family, and just kind of do what I need to do at any time.
But for this is your first training camp you've missed literally since you've been an adult, and so was that hard? Is it like, okay, I should be in the gym right now, I should be running right now, I should be on the ice right now, and was that sense of I'm not in the right place doing the right thing? Was it awkward?
Not really. It was, I'd say the most, like maybe like the first 2 weeks of the summer, where it was kind of when you go home for a little bit and you kind of see everybody, and then in your mind you're supposed to be getting ready to you going to the gym or skating, whatever the case is. And for me, it was just doing a whole lot of nothing. So that was probably the time in the beginning of the summer where I was like, oh man, I really have nothing to do here, and got to fill some time here before I go crazy. But it's been, especially the last couple of weeks, when I've been talking to a lot of the guys that I played with or that are still playing, and seeing how hard their training camps are. And right now I feel great because you're not going through those 2-a-days and all the stress of the season coming up. So the last couple of weeks I've been very much at ease.
By the way, this stage of life that Petey talked about is called old age. So
yeah. He looks like it. Look how young he is. He's still a kid.
He also said I was an adult.
Yeah, I know. I did use the term adult. Like you were not an adult when you first walked into this league, buddy. Sorry, you weren't. You were a kid.
I'm still not.
So, by the way, how were parent-teacher conferences today?
They were good.
Yep.
I always text or call my mom after those parent-teacher conference and apologize to her, because I remember her coming home from parent-teachers conferences and just laying into me of how bad I was doing in school, and going to school, and when the teachers are telling me how good my kids are doing, it it really warms my heart. So I feel bad for my mom that she had to deal with that for 10 years or whatever it is. And very grateful. My daughters are great students and great kids, great classmates. So it's bad kids, I probably wouldn't go and just send the wife.
All right, as Petey alluded to earlier, you obviously broke the news on Spittin' Chicklets with your former teammate Paul Bissonnette that you were retiring. So I have to ask a question, because I have talked to a few people. I wrote a story on you that's also on our website this morning, but one of the stories that I heard is that Paul Bissonnette was a frequent guest in your hotel rooms on the road, sometimes sleeping on a cot as the third person in the room.
If he was lucky, he'd get a cot. A lot of the times he would. He was one of those. We would order dessert, especially when it was me and Vern Fiddler were roommates, and Biz would always come out and come over after dinner and hang out and have a glass of wine or two, and he'd fall asleep at the end of my bed, the long
like
way.
a little puppy. Jeez.
Yeah. And so a lot of the times we would, actually not a lot of the time, I'd say probably a handful of times, we would wrap them up in like the extra blanket and put them in like a cocoon and pick them up and put him outside in the hallway. And then he'd wake up, and I remember one specifically, we were in Detroit at that Westin Cadillac, just not a great hotel. I mean, it is what it is, but in the middle of the night, you just hear him banging on the door, and we didn't know it was him, so we thought we were late for practice or whatever the case was. So we jump out of bed, and Biz just standing there. He's got no shirt on, the blanket's over him. He's like, "You guys left me outside. What the hell's wrong with you?" We were like, "All right, come on in."
Oh man, that's hilarious. Well, I know retirement is a hard thing to come to for a lot of players. A lot of people know when it's time. A lot of people don't. How was this decision for you? How did you know? And was it difficult, or did it come pretty easily to you?
No, it was pretty easy. I think during the season last year, I'd say even during the middle of the season, there were just times where I knew deep down, I was like, all right, this is it. Just, finding ways. It was kind of one of those things where before you enjoy going to the rink, you enjoyed every part of going to the rink, whether it was going to do rehab, if you were hurt a little bit, and just everything about going to the rink you enjoyed. And there was a few times during the year where it's just like, okay, do I really want to be doing this? What's going on right now? And I think once it gets in your head, you kind of know. So for me, I knew, and lucky enough, I was able to go out on my own, and not in a way where I got hurt and wasn't able to play. So I was definitely happy the way it ended, and excited for the next chapter.
You talk about, this is the first training camp in the National Hockey League in 16 years that doesn't have Keith Yandle in it.
Yeah.
So can you take us? How about that? What?
Well, because when he was drafted, he was in camps too. So yeah.
Oh, so more than when he played.
Yeah.
I didn't care for those guys. They were just there for camp, like HK. Why bother? Literally didn't even know their names. Because why? Like, why would I?
Yeah, why would?
Sorry, Yands.
So,
like, why
so
bother?
PD obviously had that personal
HK.
touch as a coach. That's good to hear.
HK.
Yeah.
I got other
HK,
stuff I got to do. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
someone's got to press play.
So exactly. So take us back. Take us back to one of those. Take us back to your very first one after you're drafted. Take us back to that first training camp. Who's there, veteran-wise? What's it like walking into that room? Because as your career evolves, you're the veteran. But what's that like, that first time you walk into the NHL room?
First time was crazy. That was when, remember, like Brett Hull was there.
At the Gila. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I was like going into a room with him, and Cujo was there. Obviously, Donor, Nasher, like guys that you see it on TV your whole life, and dreaming about even being on the same ice with them. And for me, I was like, oh my God, what is going on? But it was a little bit of a whirlwind for me, because my first training camp, I was a junior in high school when I was drafted. So I was supposed to go back I was supposed to go back to high school my senior year. And then, I kind of made my decision late in the summer that I was going to play juniors. And then, when you're a junior player, you can go to camp, but I had never worked out before. I had never trained like that, like those guys do. So I went into camp, literally had no clue what was going on. Probably the longest flight I ever been on, from Moncton to Arizona. So it was a crazy world. I remember I had a suitcase. It was like the worst suitcase you've ever seen. And when I landed in Phoenix, it had busted open.
Oh, no.
All my stuff was all over, like the what's it called, where you pick up your bag, the baggage carousel.
No.
And I'm like, oh my God, I waited for everyone to leave and then put my stuff together. So I just let it go around for 35 minutes, not cleaning it. And for me, it was a crazy whirlwind. And then, but I think it worked out. I think it worked out well. Just that next year, just kind of knowing a little bit more, and knowing what to expect. Obviously, that year going into junior, I knew I wasn't going to be playing in the NHL. I was just out of high school, so it was kind of one of those things where I knew I was going to junior, going to play, and then hopefully the next year go into camp and try to prove myself.
How'd you make that decision to go to Moncton? When I talked to Mike Barnett, he talked a little bit about the opportunity to host the Memorial Cup. Teddy Nolan was coaching there. There were a couple obviously players who made the NHL as well as you. But how did you make that? Because were you weighing maybe going to college as well after that, or going to UNH, or?
Yeah, so that was before the whole NIL deal, so they couldn't pay players, and I just wanted to get that money.
Yeah, buddy, gotta get paid.
Yeah, exactly. No, for me it was I had to do a summer class, and it was a Monday night. I'll never forget. I had like a 4-hour class. I called my mom after the first hour. They had like a cigarette break every hour because there was a lot of like older people. So it was the first, after the first hour, everyone's out there smoking cigarettes. And I called my mom on the payphone. I said, come and get me. I can't do this school stuff. And she was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'll go play junior and whatever, try to figure it out. And, I wanted to go to the Marines too. So I knew I kind of had that. If I wanted to do that, if it didn't work out, I could have fell back on that. Looking back, I know now that I'm definitely not tough enough to be a Marine. And yeah, it just kind of Chicoutimi had drafted me, and they didn't have a lot of English players. It was kind of at the time where the Quebec League was trying to get more Americans, so they were able to move me to a team that had a little more money, and they were able to help me out. And yeah, it was definitely a great decision for me with the team hosting the Memorial Cup, and Teddy Nolan as a coach, and amazing players there. Our team was awesome. So yeah, it was kind of one of those things that just everything worked out, and very grateful for it.
Going to your draft day, when the day you were drafted by the Coyotes, we want to dive into that a little bit. The draft that year was a little bit odd. It was that lockout year. They moved it to a Westin ballroom. Everyone was all over the place. But what do you remember about your draft day?
I remember my parents going out to buy a computer that day and getting the internet because it was all, unless you were a top 10 pick, I think those guys were invited to the draft, and then everyone else just kind of, you had to wait it out at home. So for us, it was a day. It went really quick because they did the whole draft in one day, and it just kind of just came and went. And I remember kind of logging in. It was during, I don't know if it was dial-up days or whatever, but you see the first pick, and then 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, there'd be 10, 15 guys picked. So you couldn't really keep up like you could nowadays, but yeah, I got a phone call. I don't exactly remember who the phone call was, and they were like, Wayne Gretzky's going to be calling you. And in my head, I'm like, why would Wayne Gretzky be calling me? And they're like, he's the coach of the Coyotes. And I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. So for me, it was we had a lot of people over the house. And it was exciting to be able to share it with my family, my parents, our friends, and stuff like that. So it was a special day, and I do remember we had a lot of fun that night.
Was Jerry Buckley your agent the whole time?
Yeah, he's been my guy since I was I think that age, 17, 18 years old.
So he's sitting in his beach house right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to me.
Exactly. No big deal.
Did he prep you for that day? Did you know what to expect? Because it can be crazy for a lot of players.
Yeah, not at all. It wasn't.
Not at all.
It wasn't like it was,
he was just taking your money.
It wasn't like it was nowadays. I think he was kind of new to it too. Not that he was new. He had worked under Bob Murray, as kind of like a number 2 guy. And Bob Murray had a lot of NHL guys, Keith Tkachuk, Billy Guerin, guys from the Boston area. And so I don't know how much Buck had been through the draft process. And, I think the way the draft was that year, it was a little different for everyone. So I don't think there was much to really prepare for or to get me prepared for. It's just kind of, hey, if your phone number gets called, answer the phone.
I wanted to ask a little bit more about your Coyotes experience. We're gonna get to your retirement a little more in later in the show, but when you got here, we talked a little bit about this, and I talked to Shane about this. Like a bunch of people, you said you tried to be a little more low key because you're around all these veterans. But when I talked to Marty Hansel, when I talked to Shane Doan, when I talked to Dave Tippett, they're like, "Oh no, that was his personality from the day he arrived." So maybe there's a little disconnect there. Maybe you perceived yourself as being more low key, but Your teammates definitely did not.
Yeah, I thought I would. I don't know. Petey would know a little more. I was kind of, especially in the first years when I'd say my first 4 or 5 years with, the guys that were there. There were so many veterans. The league was so different back then. Everyone was 30 to 35, 36, 37. And, there were guys on our team that had, kids running around, the kids closer in age to me than I was to them. So it was kind of, it was one of those things. I mean, I always tried to fit in, act myself, but I don't think I was as I don't know. I don't want to say like as outgoing as I was maybe towards the end of my tenure there.
But what happened though, Keith, and take you back to the locker room. The one thing when Keith Yandle walked into a room, things were relaxed, things were light. Yeah. On the ice, he's a competitor. There's no question. He competed to the best of his abilities. He played hard every night. Not saying that he didn't. But he understood, and this is from the outside looking in, Keith Yandle always understood it was a game. And you know what? I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to have fun with it. And I'm going to compete, and I want to win, but I'm going to have fun, which brings me to my next point.
Okay.
And it became a thing of legend that followed Keith Yandle around for years after the fact. But I was there on TV, when they let me out of the dungeon, watching Keith Yandle behind the net, and he faked a pass from behind the net, and the forward standing in front of the net of the opposing team bought the pass, and he went the other way, and Yands goes, "SONK ya!" And then he made the pass out the other side, and you're like, literally just did that in a National Hockey League game. The Mike's picked it up, heard it, and you're like, he just did that in a National Hockey League game, made fun of an opposing player. Goes years later, they make a T-shirt of it in Florida, the SONK ya. So Keith,
people in our chat are saying it right now.
But it was a thing. Like, it wasn't, I don't know if he meant it to be this big national, hey, let's make a T-shirt. It's like, I'm having a great time out here. I just fooled you. You bought it, and I beat you. And it's funny. Can you take us back? What that, like, your persona on the ice, like, what's that like to SONK somebody, and how does that begin? SONK ya.
Yeah, it was kind of, and I always give you credit for, you were the one I remember after that game. I believe it was in Colorado, and it was kind of, it was before, like, now there's mics everywhere, and there's kind of before like you never knew where a mic was, right? So, and you were never given the heads up about it. And I remember you pulling me into your dungeon after and said, you were like, "What the hell did you just say?"
I know.
And I'm like, oh, I always say it. Like, I just keep I do little things on the bench, like whether it is just to keep keep it loose, keep it, having fun, and sitting on a bench too, like there's some guys who get so uptight, and there are guys that need, a little relaxing before a shift. Like, you can tell whether you're gripping the stick too tight or whatever the case is, that, you say, a little one-liner, and it might ease them a little bit and, kind of help them out the next shift. But for me, I always did stuff like that during the game just to keep myself entertained. Never meant for it to kind of take on the life that it did. Just kind of, it was one of those things that I did just giving myself a little bit of pleasure and having fun with the game. Because like you said, at the end of the day, it's still a game. We're all out there. We're having fun. But it was also one of those things too, where if I knew I was passing it to the left side, when you have this center or winger swinging to the left corner, I would fake pass it to the right, maybe to get that guy to bite a little bit, to give that guy more space. So it wasn't just to kind of get a guy to make him look foolish or whatever. It was just kind of, it was to give my teammate, the guy next to me, a little bit more time and take away a little bit of pressure from him. Really quick, we have somebody in our chat responding, best hockey term ever. It's on my license plate. So, like, how does it go from that? That's amazing. The guy's got the SONK license plate. I know who that guy is. He's a great man.
All right, lesser known thing that Shane told me about. What is Juicy? Something you did with Derek Morrison? You know what I'm talking about here?
Mo used to always say it. Petey, you too. I mean, everyone said it too. I think Jason, Rudy, I don't know who started it. I definitely didn't start that. Mo used to say anytime someone made a good breakout pass or it was a lot of time used for whenever someone made a nice sauce pass, Mo would just yell juice.
Yeah,
And,
Mr. Fun, Derek Morris, Mr. Fun
yeah,
in the room.
yeah, old grumpy pants.
Exactly. So as fun as Yands was, Mo, lovely human being, love the guy, but he was not the fun, lighthearted gentleman in the locker room that Keith Yandle was. That's a fair term.
Or with media. On breakup day of his last season, Sarah McClellan and I are talking to him. And we're like, so would there be a chance to talk to you in the offseason? He goes, you'll never hear from me again.
Ever.
That was it. Yeah. Here you go.
Yeah. And
here you go.
That's what you love about Mo. And Mo was so good to me. My years in Phoenix. He was, I don't know if he got traded or signed with Boston. I lived at his house when he wasn't there, and then we traded back for him. And then we were roommates for a little bit and had to move out. I don't think we had kids yet, but I was definitely married and living at his house, and just the guy that was. I don't think I paid for a meal in my first 4 or 5 years. He was the most generous. Obviously when you look at him, he's a big, scary, tough-looking guy, but he is. And if he ever hears this, he'll probably text me and say he's going to kill me. But he is a sweetheart of a man.
Unbelievable human being.
A guy that would give you the shirt off his back, his last dollar. Just a true gentleman of the game.
Do you think that's part of the chemistry, Keith, for the teams that were playoff teams under Dave Tippett, that little run they had in the late 2010, 11, 12? Do you think that camaraderie and that bond helped propel that team?
100%. I think if you look at those teams, there was, and I'm sure you've seen it too, like you would never see 2 or 3 guys going out to dinner. Like we were rolling 10, 12 guys deep. Like there was no nights where it was just a handful of guys. Like we had every guy, whether they were, we had a lot of Czech guys, but the Czech guys would come out to dinner with us. And, you see it later on in your career, the Russians will hang out together, the Czech guys will hang out together, but we had everyone pulling from the same rope. Obviously that stems from leadership from, guys like Doan, Mo, Jovo, Marty Hansel, like guys, like we were all in together. We knew the game that we were playing wasn't anything fancy or the way Tip wanted us to play, but it was we were definitely a team where when we were in that locker room, everyone cared about each other, everyone loved each other, and those are some special days for sure.
I gotta ask an origin story. Your nickname here was Jelly. I think everyone knows why by now because of your initials.
Thanks to Shane Doan.
Yeah, thanks to Shane Doan, who told us on a prior episode. But there's some confusion about where this nickname came from, so maybe you can enlighten us.
So, did Donor think he came up with it?
No, he said your uncle.
No, he said your uncle did.
Okay, yeah. So I was called that my whole life. Like my uncles always called me.
Like when you were 4, they were calling you that.
Oh yeah. As long as I can remember, my one uncle has a deep voice. He goes, "What's up, Jelly Man?" And, but I didn't know what it meant till I was probably like 14, 15, 16 years old. Just had no clue. I just thought they just called me it, and it just kind of stuck. They still call me that to this day, and I'd say my uncles and Donor are still kind of the only guys that still call me that.
I have a question, though, and this is revisionist history of a story that happened. You probably remember it was in Denver. Our plane broke down. We didn't have a plane, and we had to wait for the Denver Nuggets plane to fly in to Denver.
From
we were
Utah.
in Denver. Yeah, we were there watching the game on the locker room.
It was Christmas Eve, by
Christmas
the way.
Eve.
No.
Christmas Eve, and it lands at between 4 and 5 a.m. True story. Like, it was horrific. We're stuck. But watching the Nuggets get off the plane, and different little swagger than the NHL team did have at that time, Allen Iverson was on the team. True story?
Mello.
Oh, it was Mello. It was Carmelo Anthony. And
I was on
the
that
story
team.
goes like this, and I can't believe it's true, so I'm going to ask it because it comes into the jelly. The Denver Nuggets are off the plane. We've been waiting in the airport for 5 hours for Christmas to get home, and they're taking their time playing cards. They finally get off in their mink coats, and they're going by, and this is the story. I got to ask if it's true. Keith Yandle says to Carmelo Anthony, he goes, "Yo, Mello." And the answer back was, "Sup, Jelly?" And he walked off. Cannot be a true story.
I don't remember that. I do remember guys, because they sat on the plane
On the
for like
plane,
an extra
playing cards.
hour finishing their card
Card
game.
game
No.
at 5 a.m. Well, we want to get home playing cards.
Guys on our team wanted to go on the plane and like just start fist fighting everyone.
Yeah,
And-
for sure.
Oh my God.
And I think, remember, they took us out to a dinner, like the plane company. I think we went to like Elway's or something.
We went to
like that.
Elway's out in Cherry Creek.
Right. Yeah. And I remember guys were so mad, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Like, what can you do here? And just something happened when they came off the plane. I tried to make light of the whole situation, and you know, because our guys were like standing there with their bags waiting,
hot.
there, just like mean
Hot.
mugging guys as they came off. And I remember making a joke, and I can't imagine that Carmelo Anthony knew who I was. So,
But it made for a better story. So we're going to go with it. And
Okay,
I'm going to
yeah.
rewrite history. And that's how I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets story from here on out. Just letting you know.
it was a good. That was a fun day though.
Oh man. Well, we'll get to more tales from the road in a minute. I want to ask, in your time with Arizona, who controlled the music in the locker room? I don't know if it was you or not. And then if you were the one controlling it or not, how has your music taste evolved since your days in Arizona in the beginning?
I remember the first few years, it was during the CDs in the locker room. You kind of just put on a CD and kind of listen to whatever was on it. And then it got to the iPods where you could plug them in. But I'll tell you who the biggest, if he didn't like a song, he went up, and you guys will probably never guess who it is, but he would go, and Petey would know, but if there was a song on with, you know, language that he didn't like or whatever, this guy would go up and just completely shut it off, and there'd be no more music the rest of the day. And that man is the legend himself, Stan Wilson, equipment manager, and no one would ever say anything to Stan because he's Stan the man, right? You can't say
Exactly. That's
anything
how it
to
should
him.
be.
Yeah,
And
he was very mindful of the lyrics of songs.
He did
Censoring.
not, if there was cussing and you know, words that shouldn't be said, he'd go, or if it wasn't a country song, he would just go up,
Yeah.
That's the truth.
pull the plug and say, all right, that's it, and we'd have to sit in silence for the next 30 minutes getting ready for a game.
So that had
But,
to pair well with your musical taste, right?
Yeah, no, it was not good. He didn't. I didn't even dare to tell Stan that I liked rap music. It
Not a
was
big
kinda-
country fan? No.
Yeah, I'd tell him how much I loved country, but I didn't know one person. But yeah, the only guy I really can remember controlling the DJ was obviously Biz was big on it. I used to call
Because
him
he wasn't
the
in
highest paid
uniform.
DJ.
He was in street clothes. He had his suit on.
Yeah,
Look, it was easy.
yeah. He'd have his sunglasses on,
Yeah.
just playing music like he was in Vegas.
Not getting ready for the game, so it was easy.
Yeah. So he was definitely the main one that I remember. And then Scotty Upshaw, he was another guy that was always on the ones and twos. Other than that, I can't really remember. Donor would put his 2 cents in and want some stupid country song. Or he liked a lot of childish songs like what was it, Afrojack? Remember that guy?
Yeah.
He used to like songs like that, just like funny, catchy songs. Donor, and like songs that kids would like. Donor liked. He would just get a kick out of them, which is always fun to see. 6'3", 230-pound man listening to like teeny bop stuff. So yeah, other than that, I think I'd say Biz and Uppy are kind of the two guys that come to mind when it comes to the music scene in my days there.
Kind of coming to the end of your time with the Coyotes, what do you remember of those final days, before you were traded to New York? Shane Doan spoke to Craig about what he remembers from those, final days. What do you remember?
I'd say the main thing that I remember was, and I think I talked to Craig about this. It was a couple of years before, and the year before, my name had been out there in the trade rumors, and thought I was going to get traded, and never wanted to be traded, but it did be stressful times. And then I remember I think it was a week or two before the deadline, Don Maloney and Donor, they were like, "You're not getting traded, you're going to be here, you're going to be a Coyote, whatever." And then that day the trade deadline came, and I was at Zbanek McCulloch's kid's birthday party, and I there was no cell service in there, and I came out of the jumpy house place and had a missed call, and I was like, oh no.
Mm.
And yeah, Don had called me and said he had traded me. I don't think he told me right away, and I was like, oh man, where am I going? And then he said New York, and they had an unbelievable team that year, so I was a little bit relieved. But yeah, it was kind of one of those things where I was a little bit scared to go to a new team. Kind of all I'd known was in Phoenix. All the guys, I'd been around those guys for so long. I was very comfortable there, and then going to a new team was a little frightening. But yeah, I do remember when Donor came over to my house. One of the hardest couple hours I had, just kind of dealing with that with him, with a guy that you look up to so much and that you owe so much to. It was kind of it was a sad couple hours with him, and but obviously my time in New York, I cherished that, and was lucky to go to a good team, good organization.
But you look at it, and when you trade a player like Keith Yandle, and I was there when they traded Kachuk and Roanek, and like it just happens. It's part of the business. It's part of the game. But that's when a franchise takes a turn and evolves in a different direction.
Usually
and when,
a step back.
When Keith left, you go, wait a minute, Yands is a Coyote. Like he was a Coyote. He was like the 2012, the run, like that bond, and you go, oh shit, that's over now.
Yep.
Like we're done with that. We're going, the page is turning and we're going to start over. And that's when I think it's hard for everybody that is in an organization. You want to win, and you all of a sudden you go, oh, we're done trying to win for a bit. And that's when it's sad, because at the time that you traded Keith Yandle, he had a lot of gas in the tank. Like he was the leader on the blue line. Like he was the guy, and it was
Dave
really
Tippett
hard.
Said he thought you were at your peak at that point too.
100% was. And that was the hardest part, I think, from the inside looking out, is like, now, like we're going to do this right now. And I think that was the realization. Oh no, we were going another direction. So it was really sad to see you go. But you talk about Shane Doan being one of those guys you looked up to. When you first come in 18, 19, 20, is there somebody else either in the organization or in the league that you either modeled yourself off, like, hey, here's a guy I should follow. Here's a guy that does it the right way. Here's a guy I should model my career and the way I work on and off the ice. Follow this guy.
Yeah, so my biggest idol growing up was, that's all you knew was Ray Bourque, and it was before the NHL network where you could watch other teams, and you didn't have access to guys like people do now, where guys' stories, you can watch their games even if they're not in the same city that you live in, and so Ray Bourque was my guy growing up, and just from a hockey stance and seeing a guy, and his son being one of my good friends is I was able to have access to his life and, see what it was all about. And, he coached us in high school. But then when you get to the NHL, that kind of, obviously you're not going to be a Ray Bourque. He's, one of the best defensemen to ever play. And, you see, for me, I remember seeing Shane and seeing how he treated everyone, not just the players, like the equipment staff, the coaches, the media, the people at the rink, anyone you run into, a fan at the street. Like, yeah, I remember going to the movie theaters with him and someone recognizing him, and Donor being, and I just grabbed my popcorn and go in the movie, and then 25 minutes later, Donor comes in. I'm like, dude, where were you? He's like, oh, I was talking to that guy. He's a fan. And I'm like, you see guys like that and the way they treat people, and he's definitely I'd say, besides my parents, my biggest role model ever is Shane, and just the way I was able to see the way he treated people, see the way he treated his family, his teammates, the game. Like the way he treated the game was probably the biggest thing that I took from him. Just appreciating every day in the NHL, which I did, and maybe if I was drafted by another team and didn't meet a guy like Donor, who knows if I would have. It's just one of those things. I was so lucky to have a mentor like him, where I was able to learn from the one of the best. Obviously, I think he's a Hall of Fame guy, a Hall of Fame player, but he's world class Hall of Fame guy as well. So I was definitely lucky enough to kind of be able to learn from him and have a front row seat to his career, and like everything he did on and off the ice was just, you just wanted to do half as good as him. And I don't think anyone will ever live up to how he treated everyone, but you definitely appreciate, even if anyone tries a little bit.
Keith, I know I asked you about this for the story as well, but you passed Doug Jarvis to become the NHL's all-time Ironman. Finished 11 games shy of 1,000. Phil Kessel's going to pass you with 8 games more played. No, don't know how you feel about that, but how do you process all of that? What was the whole experience like, both passing it, then not getting a chance to go for 1,000 and knowing it's probably going to be a short-lived record?
Yeah, that anytime you can have a record in anything, it's obviously special. I know this one's going to be short-lived, but to see a guy like Phil, a guy that I know, a guy that I'm friends with, and the guy's a winner. He's won. He shows up every night. He's a competitor. Definitely happy for him. Obviously, to be able to break that record, and it takes a lot of toll on you when you're leading up to it. When people start talking about it 3, 4, 5 years out, it's it's a lot. It was kind of one of those things I didn't love talking about. I just kind of wanted to play the game, but I know for Phil, I'm definitely happy for him. He's a guy that deserves it. Definitely no bitter feelings towards it or anything, and just to have the record for a very short time, it's meant a lot to me, and something I took a lot of pride in. But yeah, definitely going to be happy for him, and I'll be watching that game for sure.
How does a guy play 989 consecutive NHL games? How does that happen?
A lot of luck, good trainers. Another thing I love for the game, I love a lot of it too was I got a really bad case of FOMO, fear of missing out. So I always wanted to just be around. It's just one of those things. I love being at the rink more than anything, and just the little things, like even you're not feeling good going into a game, something's hurting you, and just that whole mindset of just, all right, you gotta battle through this, and getting that out of yourself and testing your body and your mindset. It was it was something that it took a lot, but it was at the end of the day, it was all worth it.
Can you imagine being a kid in Boston playing a street hockey, road hockey, and you someday become not Wayne Gretzky, not Gordie Howe, not Bobby Orr, the player to play the most consecutive games in the history of the National Hockey League is Keith Yandle. Like, that absolutely blows me away. And don't diminish that record. That is absolutely phenomenal. And literally just, wow, get chills thinking about how hard that is to accomplish when all of the people that have come before him and will play after him to accomplish that is absolutely amazing. But now I'm changing directions. So one of the things we do here to kill time in the summer is we have shows called Tales from the Road. And I would talk about different things that happened on road trips. And, like we talked about the misplane in Denver. We had Shane Doan on, and we've got a new edition that we call the Prank Edition. So what I'm going to ask you, put you on the spot. I'm looking for a prank, and you can't do it anymore because kids will call their agent and their moms, and they'll start crying. Can't cut somebody's tie when they're asleep because it costs $2,000. So, but you could back then when Keith was playing. So,
yeah.
I am going to ask you, Keith Yandle, right now for your Tales from the Road Prank Edition. Either you had to have played the prank, or you had to have had the prank played against you in your time as an NHL player.
Lucky at the one prank I remember that I think it was Mike York got me with was it was before, remember, so now obviously like every car is, the key is, you walk up to it, you can open it, you can start it, but back then you had to put the key in to start the ignition, and he sewed my pants, the pants pocket of my suit. He sewed the pants pockets with 3 other guys' car keys in there, and just leaving the rink. Obviously, you don't put your hands in your pocket. I was walking out to my car after the game and tried to put my hand in there, and it's completely sewed shut. And you have to go back into the rink, and have the trainers, surgically repair it out. And you open it up, and
Suit's done.
There's three guys, an Audi, a Mercedes, and a BMW set of keys in your pocket. You're like, who did this? And you look over, Yorkie's just giggling. So that was a good one. The old, which never happened to me, but on the road when you'd put your shoes underneath the seat or whatever, guys would nail them into the ground, which was always a good one. After a game, you go to take your shoes out and they'd be nailed into the ground. And, 99% of the time you're rushing to get on the bus. So it'd be funny to see a guy come in with no shoes or the shower sandals on and just leave their brand new pair of Gucci shoes in the visitors team locker room. That was always a good one.
You can't do that now.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding about agents and parents. And you literally couldn't do that. That's a $2,000 pair of shoes. You couldn't do it. Like, guys would literally be in tears crying. The keys one, Todd Simpson, literally the worst keys one all time.
Yeah, I remember.
Wasn't on the ice, went into everybody's stall during practice, took everybody's key ring, put them all on the floor. Everybody's mail key, house key, car key,
like
mix them all together. Oh. Good luck, guys. 20 guys that everybody's house key looks the same. Good luck. That's one of the worst all time.
Didn't he get traded that day? And he did it when
no,
the day he got traded, and he was gone by the.
Were you there for the blue gloves or the purple gloves?
No, I wasn't. But I heard.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that another day. Stan's still upset about that.
He is. I used to be able to do a good Dave Tippett impression, so I would call guys' rooms on the road and be like, "Hey, it's Tip. Why don't you come up to my room? Get a couple questions for you." And I'd tell them my room number, and they'd come up, and I'd look at them through the peephole. They'd be all nervous and everything, and then I'd open the door and we'd have a good chuckle. I never really did anything.
That was really good.
Really did anything
Dave Tippett, by the way,
to harm anyone, or it was all just for a laugh. I never really ruined anyone's clothes, or that was kind of. I more did things just to get a laugh from myself.
Oh man, those are good. One last question, and then we'll let you go. You've been so generous with your time, but just overall, now that you're retired, we're looking back on your career, and your time with Arizona was a significant portion of your time as an NHL player. How will you remember your time as a Coyote?
Absolutely loved it. One of those places I was fortunate enough to get my feet wet in the NHL and to start my career there. A place that's very, when I think about it, it's just kind of everything in my life. Whether it's getting married, having kids, both my kids were born there. Spent the first couple of years in Arizona. So for me, it's just kind of everything goes back to Arizona. Obviously getting a chance to play in the NHL for a team, I'm not going to lie, it was a team I didn't really know too much about when I came into the NHL, but now it's a team that means so much to me. Just to be able to call myself a Coyote, and something I take great pride in. I have a bubble hockey game in my game room here with the big Coyotes logo on it. And, just one of those things where I take a lot of pride in being a Coyote, and very grateful for my time there. And I golfed with Wayne yesterday, and his brother, Keith, was the one, him and what's the other guy's name? He's from Canton, Mass. They were the guys that drafted me, and, obviously took a chance on me, and, very grateful for that, and it absolutely adored my time there, and a place that's very special to me.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We can't thank you enough. I know everyone was really excited to hear from you, so we appreciate your time, and hopefully we can maybe catch up with you again.
Yeah, honestly, Keith, we need to do this again, because I forget some of these stories and these memories and all the things that I know I was on the periphery, on the outside looking in, but all of these things, this was a good show, and I appreciate you taking the time. And are you in Jovo's house now, the old one? Were you on that trip when we went?
Oh, yeah.
Never mind. That's a whole nother show. But thanks again, buddy. And let's do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you guys know, Petey, this is the first compliment you've ever given me. So I appreciate that. And no, seriously though, I miss you guys, and I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Yands.
Enjoy the beach, enjoy the family, enjoy the sun, buddy. We'll catch up with you again soon. Steve Lyons, by the way, is the guy you were trying to think of.
Steve Lyons.
With
I
the
don't know how
thick
to
Boston
pronounce
accent. Yep.
his name. Yep. What a great guy.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
bud.
you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Later, Jelly.
Bye. Well, thank you again to former Coyote Keith Yandle.
Wow.
Absolute
Yeah,
legend.
that was fun.
Great
That was a lot of fun.
personality. I think everyone remembers him for his
Wow.
his fun personality. And it is weird to think about Keith Yandle not in the league. You know, he's been a staple in the league for so long, but he seems really at peace with his decision. And you know, I want to get into more of what he said in a little bit, but I was thinking as he was talking, as you were saying, oh, he's not in the league. It's just so, and especially the Ironman, which happened literally last season. So now, you know, looking at all these NHL games. By the way, right now there is an NHL game on
I know, and
Now.
we're doing this.
It's great.
right
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So
I
thank
know.
you everyone
Global
for
series.
being here. And I hope some people put some money on it on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. I got a notification from DraftKings this
Nashville
morning.
-1.5.
I was really excited to see like a hockey is back message from DraftKings. But if you didn't get your money in on this game, that's okay, because there's plenty of opportunities to get money in on DraftKings. And now I'm going to send it to Sean for our DraftKings pick of the week. Sean, what do you have for us?
Well, you're gonna like this one. I know you were saying hockey's back, but also playoff baseball starts today.
Mhm.
And in a little
are the
a
Twins?
little over an hour, the Toronto Blue Jays take on the Seattle Mariners.
Dun, dun, dun.
I believe it's 21 years since the Mariners have been to the playoffs.
Yep.
And it's not going to start off on the right foot. I think the Blue Jays are going to
Wow.
win tonight. Alex Manoah has been locked in. Luis Castillo has not necessarily been locked in. So I'm taking the Blue Jays -1.5 at +170 as my DraftKings Sportsbook
All right.
pick of the week.
I love it, Sean.
Wow.
This series might ruin some of my relationships, but we'll talk about that another time. If you want to tail Sean's DraftKings pick of the week, you can do so on DraftKings right now. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. And if that's not enough, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. Right now, for every leg you add, you can boost your winnings up to 100% with payouts bigger than ever. Why bet on football anywhere else? And to make things even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped up same game parlays once per game day all season long. Simple. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook. Use the promo code PHNX. That's code PHNX at DraftKings. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. And of course, throughout the show, we've been enjoying our Four Peaks beer. PD has this is his second kilt lifter,
well,
by the way.
It's noon. It's almost
It's
noon.
11:50.
11:50, and I'm on my
Craig
second.
has
I've got the wow.
The
This is-
wow.
This is
Work.
day drinking beer.
Yep.
It is.
Oh,
and
buddy.
really good
Sean
day
and I
drinking
have
beer.
the golden lager, which is just a great
I had a golden lager.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're enjoying our Four Peaks. We have a great event coming this Friday. I'm excited. I know a couple of people in the Coyotes Discord got tickets because these tickets were available to members only, and
For
then they
hours.
sold out
They
in
go-
less than a day for the ASU, the home opener, the ASU hockey home opener at Mullet Arena. So we're really excited to tailgate that game this Friday, or a week from today now, at Four Peaks. We have some more events coming soon, so stay tuned. You must be 21 or older to drink the beer and enjoy responsibly, but check out the A Street Pub. It's great for all ages because they have wonderful food, and the ghost tours right now, which are really fun as well. Any notes from the Keith Yandle interview that you wanted to touch on?
I was just glad that we got to share a lot of stories, because when you do this many interviews for a written story, you just can't include everything. You just can't fit everything into a story. So I'm glad we got to hear some more of those stories.
Oh my God. Seriously.
This is
Somebody's
classic.
calling in. Total classic.
This is classic.
Yeah. Well, can we bring in our special guest?
Who's calling in?
it's just-
Who's calling in right now?
Our special guest that was literally
Oh
supposed to
my
call in an
God.
hour ago. Somebody is late calling in. Where's my surprise face right now?
Wait. I cannot be late when I have no service. I'm literally in the middle of Alberta. I'm getting into my truck. I hope I have more service in there.
You've got to be Shane. And by
You
the
guys see me
way,
there we go.
Donor, I will tell you this, because we just had a 45-minute interview with one of the best human beings that it's ever worn a Coyote jersey, in Keith Yandle. And you'll have to go back and listen to this, Donor, because all he did was praise you and how big of an influence you had on his career. And so go back and listen to it. But we really needed you to call about a half hour ago. So thanks.
Well, you come out to Alberta and see where I'm at and see if you get any service.
Good grief.
Area to get service.
Is it Thanksgiving already?
Yeah, it's Thanksgiving.
On Monday. Monday's Thanksgiving here.
Well, since we're here and we have you, I want to give you the opportunity. It's like when you have a guest on the Tonight Show, you got to pitch your upcoming projects. We're going to talk about Gracie, because Gracie's movie is coming out in Shocktober on the Lifetime Movie Network.
No way.
Yep, it is. I saw the commercial.
Yeah. But they changed the name, I believe.
I don't know. We can't find it. It was Stealing in Suburbia at one time. Look at it. She's wearing a toque and a Letterman jacket. Look for the commercial on your Lifetime Movie Network. She looks great in the commercial.
And she's doing another one. She's shooting like a little scene, I think, on Tuesday with the same director doing something else. She's there for 2 or 3 days, so she's excited. She's having a fun time.
Well, and then after this, Donor, because I know you listen to our show every day, because you literally have all the time to do that. But you need to go back and listen to this, because there were a lot of stories that you got to relive a lot of your career and the time I spent with the Coyotes with Keith Yandle. Some playoff moments, some pranks, and honestly, some really touching stories with Keith Yandle. So please go back and listen.
Yeah. I also need to point. Go ahead.
No. I will for sure.
I got to point out, first of all, I understand that you're in the middle of Alberta and cell service is not good, but you don't have a good reputation with cell service anyway. So let's face it. But I just texted Keith to tell him that you just showed up on the show, and he says he's going to be late for his own funeral.
Yes.
Donor, I tell you what, we're going to see you this. We were just talking about this. We're going to see you next weekend. Because next week, the 14th, it is the home opener for the ASU Sun Devils at the Mullet, and your son currently is sitting in my hometown of Bemidji, getting ready to play the Beavers tonight. I'll be tuning in to that game. One eye on that, one eye on the Coyotes. Will you get a chance to watch the game tonight?
I will try to figure it out. I hope Mom and Dad have service out. Like, we can usually figure something out around the house if you have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's on Flow Hockey. If you're FLO, Flow Hockey. So just Google
Hockey?
it.
Okay.
FLO.
They were on something different last weekend.
I know. There was something different. It's on Bemidji State's games on Flow Hockey.
Yeah, it depends on the
conference. It's like we're just sitting here
in.
talking. There are people trying to watch. Like, okay, we got to go to lunch. We got stuff to do here. Sorry, Donor.
Oh my goodness.
Donor, it's great to see you, buddy. Can we get you
guys?
I'm going to put you on the spot while you're in Alberta. Can we get you live in the studio sometime in the next 6 months?
Yes, 100%. You will have me live in the studio in the next 6 months.
Amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
And we are going to have you sign. There's a mural with Shane Doan on the mural.
Have you seen it? It's really cool, actually.
I showed him a picture last time. We'd love to have him sign the mural. So please.
That would be cool.
Okay.
That would be cool.
Well, we appreciate you calling in, even though we missed the window with Keith Yandle on, but we appreciate it nonetheless. It was a great surprise for everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, buddy.
Happy Thanksgiving. Take care, buddy.
Thanks. See you guys.
Talk to you later.
Oh, my goodness. Well, the intention was to surprise Keith Yandle with Shane Doan calling, but that was classic. So I enjoyed that.
So on brand.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that. That was hilarious. It is Canadian Thanksgiving this weekend, so but excited that he committed to joining us here in studio, and it's perfect. Right now we're in our 3 chairs. We have a 4th chair. They're very comfortable. I'm very excited to welcome him into our studio because of how it's decorated, and that's all thanks to More Furniture, who outfitted our entire studio. And if you're looking to buy some new furniture, Sean is getting a new apartment, by the way.
Seriously?
He needs to furnish the whole thing, and I know he's on More.
Yeah.
More's fall sale.
My apartment is brought to you by More
Furniture. Sponsored by More Furniture. And if you'll receive $100 gift card for every $1,000 you spend at More Furniture's fall sale at morefurniture.com. So definitely check it out. And if you're looking for some extra decor, or you're just, getting into the spirit, we talked about Arizona State starting hockey. If you want to grab some gear, head over to FOCO. They have the best Arizona merchandise with officially licensed gear for men, women, and kids, and everything from bobbleheads to swimsuits to Crocs. And this week they have brand new Cardinals hoodies for all the Cardinals fans out there. The ultimate loungewear, similar to a Snuggie, which Craig has many, he admitted the other day.
Just 2.
Okay. That's more than one, so it's many. Head on over to foco.com for all non-presale items. Use the promo code PHNX for 10% off. Okay, I'm going to hand it to Craig because he has a few things he needs to address.
Well, first of all, I think a number of you out there know by now that I'm often mistaken for the country music singer, Craig Morgan, the more famous Craig Morgan. I'm going to reveal a truth to you today. The truth is that we're one and the same.
Wow. Country Thunder right there.
Jeff DeGolier, thank you very much for, sending a nice letter to me. And also Jeff DeGolier, who's a big Coyotes fan, follows us all over. We've seen Jeff. We saw him at a recent event.
Tucson,
we did.
Yep, down in Tucson. Well, Jeff sent me, a copy of one of my CDs.
the Craig
Family
Morgan
Country.
CD?
Asked me if I would sign it for him, so I'm going to sign it. And while I do this, Sean, can you put up my upcoming tour dates?
Here is the Craig Morgan.
Obviously, I'm going to be at the Grand Ole Opry tonight, so right after the show,
Craig!
I'm going to hop on a plane.
Get moving.
I mean, it helps when you have an
Wow.
Airstream, though, so you can
Can't
get there
wait for
quicker,
that one.
So I'll go ahead and sign this for Jeff. I'll get it back to him at some point soon.
Oh, my.
And you're going to Mason City, Iowa. We're here in the heartland.
That's right, buddy.
Love it. Just in time for Coyotes opening night.
But now I need to get more serious for a moment. Speaking of another PHNX avid listener and watcher, Karen McKenzie, thank you so much for the case of Nutter Butters that you sent me. I've got a packet right here. Everyone knows that I like Nutter Butters. Everyone knows it's in my contract that I have Nutter Butters and Pellegrino at a specific temperature. Rarely are these conditions of my contract met, so thank you for taking care of that, Karen. Unfortunately, I've got some serious news for you. All of our listeners, all of our viewers, and PHNX family, there's a thief among us. Here's the photographic evidence of someone who stole some of my Nutter Butters. It has been made pretty clear to the entire staff that these are my Nutter Butters. In fact, Sean DePaz keeps them under lock and key in a safe in his office. Somehow, someone got into the Nutter Butters and that was brazen enough to leave the Nutter Butters on their desk. So we've launched an investigation to see what it's going to be. We're going to dust for fingerprints, and we will get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
There's a hint. There's
Don't
a
think we
hint
need
on the
Sherlock
That's all I
Holmes
have
for
to
that
say
one.
for now. It's really disappointing.
Wow. Nick said, I just audibly gasped. Karen said, no. Yeah, so we said it with, if you're listening on audio, there was some photographic evidence, but
Of who might have stolen
that's all we're going to say
the Nutter
right
Butters.
now.
It was a specific desk, so
It was specific.
I think we have a pretty good bead on the suspect.
The culprit.
Very, yeah.
Oh, there it was again. You have to go back and watch the YouTube channel to see who it was.
Exactly.
Guilty.
I know we're going long, and we need to let this person
That
host
show
their own
Get
show.
on their show.
But this is our last regular week. I mean, we have daytime shows next week, but games start next week. We've been doing a segment all summer long, Weekend Binge, and it's kind of our last Friday 11 a.m. show that I can think of right now. So really quick, let's just do one more Weekend Binge before.
Yeah,
the season
I'll
starts.
go quick. I'm on a new streaming service, Acorn, ACORN. It's
been
all
selling me
British,
hard on this.
Australian shows. I'm watching Hinterland,
Okay.
and that's very deep, foreign detective show. Hinterland on Acorn.
Okay. I've been sticking with my what's it called?
Handmaid's Tale.
Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, I'm there with you on that.
Love
Handmaid's
Island.
Tale. No, I finished Love Island. Handmaid's Tale, House of the Dragon, and Bachelor in Paradise, you guys.
There it is.
Oh my god. Sean is in on Bachelor in Paradise. It's so good. It's like Love Island of Bachelor. Okay, I'm done.
One addition to this, I told you guys I'm watching this. It's called The Patient with Steve Carell.
Yeah.
Not surprisingly, for a show that I'm watching, it's pretty dark.
Very dark.
Oh man. Sean, do you have any?
Yes, tomorrow, not 10 p.m. One of the few F1 Grand Prix that is at a normal time in America. The Japanese Grand Prix is tomorrow on ESPN at 10 p.m.
That's fun.
So tap in if you want to see a little
I do love F1.
race car action.
I do really
Can you
enjoy
get
F1.
tickets to F1?
You can go. Yeah, the tickets are going to be available soon for Vegas in a year.
Yep, and so that next year there will be
PHNX
Vegas, Texas,
at
and
F1.
I
Miami.
could tickets
Well, maybe.
to F1. Can we try that again? Take two. Leah, can you get tickets to an F1 race?
I mean, I'm sure you can check the Game Time app because that's the only place to buy tickets, and you can save up to 60%, especially when you buy last minute. I don't think you'll get to Japan in time for tomorrow night's I think is it Sunday
Could fly
morning
on
for
my
them?
If you're a
That's true.
procrastinator.
Or
Yeah.
hitch
Sunday
a ride
morning,
with
yeah.
Craig to Nashville.
Yeah.
But check out Game Time. And we talked about, for those who missed out on the mullet takeover on Friday for the ASU home opener, check Game Time because there might still be tickets available. Of course, come say hi. You can always come to Four Peaks before. We'll be there. So check out Game Time. You can save up to 60% when you buy last minute. Great for the procrastinators out there, and not just for sporting events, but concerts and shows as well. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. So scroll down wherever you're listening. You'll see the link there. And then let us know if you've had success buying tickets on Game Time. I've heard nothing but great stories. We've had nothing but great experiences here using Game Time. So, it's the place to get your tickets. And we obviously spent quite a bit of time today talking to Keith Yandle, but Craig published a story this morning on gophnx.com that really dives deeper, talks to some amazing people who knew Keith really well. So if you haven't had a chance to read that, I read it this morning. It's a great article. Become a member at gophnx.com so you can read that. It's excellent. And then you can grab a shirt. We're matching again, but this was planned today, I will say. Planned. This was, unlike Tucson, this was planned. Grab a shirt from the PHNX locker when you sign up for an annual membership, and then come join our members-only Discord. It's tons of fun. And like I said, there's events that only members get first access to, and we saw how fast this event sold out. So there's going to be more like that. So lots of great perks to becoming a member. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything else to that.
No, just a couple stories coming. It's the season starting next week, so I'm going to be doing my normal preview stuff, looking at 10 questions facing the team as they start. But I've got an offbeat story coming Sunday. I think I told you guys this on a previous show. I caught up with former Coyote Justin Hodgman. Cup of coffee, Coyote Justin Hodgman. I think he played 5 games here. But his journey is just fascinating. It's just sort of a kind of a love of the game story. And with the season starting, he also just announced his retirement. So it's sort of a good time to drop this.
And I'll do my quick plug because what just happened over the last hour here at PHNX, Keith Yandle, Shane Doan, and Coyote Hockey Talk. You know where else you can find that in Arizona? Exactly. Nowhere. If you want to follow the Coyotes, and I know it's going to be painful, the only place to do it in the state of Arizona is right here at PHNX. So if anything happens to the Coyotes, Craig will write about it. Anything happens to the game, Lee and I are going to talk about it after. This is the only place to be for Coyote stuff. So I think being a part of this community for hockey fans is an absolute must.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be back live Monday at 11 a.m. We're going to actually have an audio episode dropping Sunday. So a little...
Sunday?
We're not working on Sunday. There's an audio drop in that day because it's the NHL season. What is that?
It was a drum roll.
Oh
Sounds
my
like static.
God. Yeah. What the?
So
we'll
need
be
our buttons.
we'll be live Monday and Tuesday at 11, audio episode. And then you guys, it's post-game shows.
Post-game show Thursday.
Holy
Here we go.
shit. I can't believe it. I'll
be in
cannot believe it. So it's going to be a blast. Follow along. Follow us on Twitter at PHNX_Coyotes. I am going to get, if it's the last thing I do, PD will dance before the home opener.
Okay.
I just
Hey, how about this?
that.
And if it doesn't, we'll have enough Four Peaks during the Thursday game show that I'll start off with that.
Okay.
Okay, that
That's
sounds
a deal.
good. That's a deal. So
that
it's going
seems
to
to
happen.
help my dancing, by
Yeah.
the way. Four Peaks.
Yeah.
Another plug for Four Peaks.
Perfect.
I'm a better dancer with Four
Perfect.
Peaks.
I promise it'll happen. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with people who are interested in hockey, interested in the Coyotes. Like PD said, it's going to be painful. We're here together for some pack therapy.
His dancing or the season?
I mean, whatever, both.
Whatever.
Exactly. You can follow each of us on Twitter at Craig S. Morgan, at Leah Merrill, at S. Peters Hockey, and at Sean_DePaz. Thank you again to Keith Yandle for his time today, and Shane Doan also for his time delayed, but we appreciated it nonetheless. And cheers, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend without hockey because hockey is back next week. Cheers.
Cheers.